Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Brief. Today, we're very fortunate to have Jim Cannata with us. Jim, welcome.
Thanks for having me today, Chris.
Jim is the Chief Marketing Officer of Ripple Fiber. And Jim, to get us started, why don't you start back at college days and tell us about what you did leading up to your amazing role now at Ripple?
Yeah, thank you. So I started college as an accounting major and I hated it. And I always knew that I wanted to draw. I was always inspired by art. So I switched my major to art, much to the delight of my parents. And this was back before we had computers. So it was a graphic communication major, and I had an emphasis in illustration. So I graduated college with an illustration degree, thinking that I wanted to be a cartoonist or some sort of illustrator. Um, but I didn't realize that was a whole different world. So I got a job out of college drawing cars for the newspapers. So I don't know if you remember this, Chris, but back in the old days, on the back page of the newspaper were all the car ads, and they were all black and white illustrations. So um, Toyota would send me photos of all the new vehicles, and I would illustrate them, and then I would send them off to the publications, and they would use them in their newspaper ads. So that's how I got into the agency world.
That's amazing. Jim, all you had to say was newspaper to give us context to the time in front. And were you doing ever doing heliographs or any of that?
I didn't. I did a lot of halftones, a lot of pen and ink, a lot of
Yeah.
what they called PMTs or photomechanical transfers. So we were shooting on big cameras, and then the art would be pasted and waxed onto a board and then shot. And then that's how you made newspaper ads back in the day. So a lot of time in the dark room, a lot of time with waxer and X-Acto knife and cutting amber lithlays and just creating it the old-fashioned way. And when I graduated, computers, the Mac had just come out, so I learned that very quickly. And we had one Mac that we shared in the whole agency, and I got to be pretty good at it. So that became my specialty, and I started doing illustration and ads um, with the Macintosh, Illustrator 88, if that.
Jim, that is amazing. I like you can talk about those kinds of experiences. I worked in an agency. I started in '87, and as a junior account guy, we were working on key lines
Yeah,
and had an alphographic
yeah,
type machine and a stat room. And I remember watching the art directors and the designers cut Ruby liths to knock out color and do halftones and things like that, and looking at blue lines and going on press checks in the middle of the night. There was a true art to it then. Now obviously it's there's superpowers and power in everything we use. Our watch has more power than those old equipment had, but the watching a craftsperson kern type and really lay it in to make it look optically beautiful, not necessarily measured but optically beautiful.
yeah. And Chris, I can't tell you how many times I read type on a menu or on a sign somewhere, and I just lose my mind.
Yeah.
Took 2 full semesters of typography in school, and people were baffled, like, "What do you" um, but yeah, I go crazy when I see just bad laid type, but, nobody cares anymore, you don't have to lay good type anymore, it's accepted, so.
Exactly. So, as an illustrator of cars and for ads for newspapers, what happened next, and keep us going on this journey leading up to today?
Yeah, so got really involved with the Mac and became a graphic designer, um, and worked my way up in agencies to all the way up to creative director. But what I realized at a pivotal point in my career was I wasn't the best designer we had on staff. I had designers working for me that were much better and much more creative than I was. I had great ideas and I could execute them, but I wasn't technically as proficient as everybody else. But what I understood was how to manage that team and manage the business of the agency. I remember there was one particular end of year um, where we didn't get bonuses, and I went to management. And I said, "Hey, we crushed it. You know, why didn't we get bonuses?" And they're like, "Well, your department wasn't profitable." And I was like, "What does that even mean?" Um, so I figured out very quickly that there was a business side to what we were doing, and it wasn't just art for art's sake. Um, so I decided to start measuring and tracking everything and every hour and every piece of paper and every lithograph and what did we spend our money on and how much were we paying in salaries and how much were we charging clients and what was their hourly rate. And next year we made our bonus.
Nice.
So I realized I had a knack for running the business side of the agency and moved in that direction. From there, um, I built a couple agencies, and I took a couple of jobs with some smaller agencies that wanted to expand their agency services into different markets, and I helped them do that. So I came in on the business side of running the agency. I understood the talent. I understood what it took to work in an agency and be part of the talent, but I also understood the business side. So the finance guys liked me, the creatives liked me. I could kind of bridge that gap. Um, and just make sure that the agency was profitable. And I realized very quickly that that was valuable to the business. And so that's where I ended up with growing agencies.
I have a friend that had a similar journey, and he joked that one day after he realized that we needed to make money to really have the truest amount of fun, he said, "We started wearing socks, and all of a sudden this math started making sense." And it was a funny way of putting it. Um, so Jim, you came out of the agency world. Was Ripple your first client side role?
Ripple is my first client side role. Yeah, I'd been in the agency for many, many years and decided to take a client side role. I wanted to know what it would be like to work on one brand and dedicate all of your brain power to one brand. And I love it.
No, that's awesome. Um, were you Were they a client? Did you know them? Did they know you? It was just meant to be, and the forces of the universe conspired to pull you together.
It was just force of the universe conspired. I saw the posting and I thought, that sounds interesting. It was a mile from my house. The office is a mile from my house. And I was like, let's interview. And had the chance to interview. And there are some really, really smart people here with a really good vision. I think vision is key. I think the company has to have vision
Mm,
and alignment. Everybody has to be aligned on that vision. And you have to be solving a real problem. In order for me to be engaged, it has to be something that I would buy,
yeah.
and it has to be something that solves a real problem for people. And Ripple does that, and they have a really strong vision. You know, it's not just about bytes and bits for bucks. It's really about changing people's lives with the power of technology and connectivity. And that resonated. So I was like, okay, this feels more like a mission than a job, and it just fell into place, and I love it.
So when you were interviewing and coming in, what was the brief? What was the assignment? Obviously, help grow the business, but rarely is it you know everything's rosy. Come on in and just keep doing. Keep us amazing. We're on top of the universe. Like, what was the brief?
Well, we didn't have a lot when I started. We had a pretty rudimentary website and a logo. So the brief was, can you build the department?
Yeah.
Which is what I'd been doing, so I loved it. So build a brand that people respect, that's trustworthy, and that communicates exactly who Ripple is and what they stand for. So it was about taking that purpose and putting it into visual and written context and making sure that people understand who we are and why we're here. So yeah, changing hearts and minds. Yeah.
Got it. So that was day one. Where are you now, and what's the team look like?
Yeah. So we are a little over 3 years into it from that point, and we've got a really nice in-house team. We've got public relations in-house, corporate communications, social media, paid and earned, um, graphic design, and then events and um, community engagement type of people on the team, and then we outsource our media buying. So all of our digital media buying, Meta, Google Search, SEO, all that we use an agency for. But a lot of it, coming from the agency, I like to have my hands on it. So having it in house is the way I like to do it, and it works well. So we've got a big team here, um, and we do most everything in house. We outsource video production, things like that. So
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes total sense. Yeah, it's hard. I'm always astounded by the organizations that try and do that internally. Uh, and I think it shows up in their product because, if you're trying to shoot a wide range of content,
yeah,
it's rare that a shooter can actually do well across lots of different formats and styles. They tend to show up as
yep,
a documentarian or, a still life person,
yeah.
and so I think that makes a ton of sense.
No, you're
And
exactly right. I remember a time we were working on Kellogg's and NASCAR, both accounts,
yeah,
and shooting serial is very different than shooting cars that are going 200 miles an hour. So we always hired out photography and video based on skill set.
yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So you're in a tough space in some regards, right? It's become the new oxygen, right? People can't live without it, and yet, with Starlink and all kinds of other options. I mean, T-Mobile offering the little box that it ties into their systems, so it's cordless. Tell us, how does Ripple stand apart? And what's the magic in the brand? You said that, it is about enabling people, but tell us a little bit about, how you've helped it really stand apart.
Yeah, thank you. So I call it the fourth utility, because you've got gas, electric, water, and internet, and you choose your internet provider before you even move into a home. Like, you would never move into a home or an apartment and not have the internet already turned on.
Yeah,
So that's a challenge, and um, there are more and more players entering, and it's getting much more competitive. So there will be a time in the near future when everyone will have access to fiber internet. We started this business at a time when not everyone had access to fiber internet, um, and now it's much more competitive. So in order to stand out, you can either price race to the bottom,
yeah,
which we're trying not to do, or you can offer something that people need and like, and that is the connectivity. So
yeah.
what we try to do is offer a superior product. We own and build our own network. We try and offer excellent customer service. And we feel like that sets us apart. We have a white glove installation. And then one of the things we do that I think is unique is we offer a totally free Wi Fi backup included in every plan. So if the
Mm,
internet actually goes out, it kicks over to a cellular backup, so you don't go down. And we include that in every Gig Plus package. So
that's great. Now you're making me long for something I don't have. Um, the um, are there areas geographically from your coverage where you are the only fiber option?
yeah. So we do have areas where we're the only fiber option, and those are ideal areas from a competitive standpoint.
Mhm.
But those areas are becoming fewer and fewer as more players enter the market, and fiber continues to get built at a rapid pace. I mean, you got to think like the last time people had a major infrastructure like fiber was probably in the 80s when people were burying cable, right?
Mhm.
So that's 40 some years ago is the last time people's right of ways got dug up and infrastructure went in the ground. And um, it really tickles me that people are sometimes upset when they see the construction happening, and I'm thinking, well, gosh, when they ran indoor plumbing, were people this upset? When they ran electricity, were people this upset? But we're bringing something to these communities is going to enhance these communities. It's going to make them more desirable places to live. It's going to increase property values. This is a good thing. There's a little bit of disruption that happens, but it's all in the name of progress, right? So, um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally relate. unfortunately, social media is a place where people are very quick to criticize or be critical rather than take a holistic view. And even the media today seems to propagate that kind of stuff. And customer service, you talked about having a good customer service experience. That's really difficult when there are forces of nature that sometimes come into play that you just have no control over. I mean, yeah, you didn't want that storm to knock out the service.
Right.
Yay, it's out. Like, no, that's not, you know, but because it is that fourth utility or that oxygen. What are some of the things you train into the organization, into the team that help them have empathy, but also practicality around, relating to people in ways that continue that bond and build on it, even in the toughest of times.
Yeah. So I think you're right. With social media, it's a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah.
It's easy for people to express their feelings, but I think that's also a good thing, right? Because now we have much more connectivity to our customers, and it's easier to converse with them in a place where they want to converse. You always have to meet your customer where they are, and they're on social media. Someone once told me there's two type of customers that have a bad experience. One goes to a restaurant, they have a bad meal, they don't say a word, they get up, they never come back, they tell their friends it was terrible. The other ones call the manager over, complain this was bad, and they give you an opportunity to fix it. And those are the ones you
Mhm.
want. You want the customer that says, "Hey, I'm not happy,"
Yeah.
that raises their hand, that points it out, so you have an opportunity to fix it. And social media has become that first line of communication. So it's very important that we monitor that closely, that we respond, that we're empathetic, and that we take care of the customers or even people that aren't customers, even people that are just impacted by the construction that are on there
Yeah.
complaining. So social media is really our first line of defense and the first way that we can relate and show humanness and empathy to these customers. And that's important for us. So we spend a lot of time and energy on social. And it's not just posting pretty pictures, it's really understanding where the customers are at, what the sentiment is, and how can we be a part of that conversation and have them talk to us and not about us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really smart to having been in places where I had really bad ISP relationships. It was just, there's no value in it. In fact, it's so negative that not being responsive, not having, I mean, look, you can't stop Mother Nature. You can't, if you've got to build infrastructure, you've got to build infrastructure. You can't get stuff to people unless it's there. Um, but if you don't communicate about those things and communicate clearly and fairly, it's just awful. And unfortunately, there are a number of major brands that have actually dragged the whole category down,
Yeah,
by being big as opposed to good.
correct. And we see a lot of things out there that you're right that aren't caused by us, but it's the nature of the game because more and more people are doing these construction projects and laying
Yeah.
fiber, because there's more people building, there's more accidental hits, there's more people cutting lines, and that's hard to explain to people. They
Yeah.
just want their internet to work. They don't care whose fault it is. They don't care if it's your fault or someone else's or Mother Nature's. They just need it to work,
Yeah.
um, which is why we offer that cellular backup, so that if something does get cut, if a feeder cable gets cut, um, they have a backup resource for internet that way.
So let's talk about the product mix a bit. So you obviously have fiber and you have cellular backup. What else is in the mix? Like, is there a modem package and layers of options around technology? And do you have other kind of things that are adjacent to that?
Yeah, we have a few things that bolt on to our products. You can get a static IP address, if you need that. Most people don't need those, but some people are doing heavy usage and need a static IP. You can add a VoIP phone line if you
Yeah.
need that as well. And then all of our plans, like I said, include that wireless backup. They include the white glove installation, and they include free installation. So no installation. The equipment is free as well. We don't charge for the equipment. So you're going to get the modem and the router, And then if you need it, if your house is large or you have walls in the way or placement issues, we can add additional wireless access points to your home. Our preference is to hardwire those rather than create a mesh system, so that you just have the devices aren't fighting over the best connectivity.
Yeah.
And we use all Eero equipment in all of our Gig Plus packages. So it's state of the art. It's really good equipment, performs well, strong signals, all of that. And we've got a range of packages. We start plans at $40, which is for a 650 meg plan, and then we go all the way up to 8 gig. So we have a plan for every family, for every need, however you use the internet, whatever kind of user you are. We've got a plan that fits and a price that fits for you and your family.
Yeah, with streaming video and other, content heavy, or data heavy stuff, it's amazing how you feel the difference as a consumer with a 300 megabit plan versus a gig plan.
Yep.
Especially like I currently have a system that allows me to see every connected device in an app. And our kids are out of the house now, but when they were here, oh my god, that list was, like, as long as my arm. I mean, it was astounding, and then, of course, you add in all the automation type elements. There's so many things that so and I think you're really smart to have control over the quality of the hardware, right? Because that's a big weakness point. Somebody buys a Temu Wi-Fi hotspot, and guess what? Or not a hotspot, but a mesh system. It's gonna be terrible,
Yeah.
and then you're the one gets blamed. And I'm sure the cycles on that are hard to kind of manage. And the other providers, I'm sure, are subject to that because
Yeah.
they are in the charge for hardware game.
Yeah. One of the
That
nice
makes
things about the Eero system is we, as Ripple, have access and we can see um, usages. We can see when it's down. We can't see what you're doing, but we can see
right.
how much you're using, and if you are falling over to Wi-Fi. And then the user, the actual homeowner, through the Eero app, can control which devices are on, which devices are off. Did they go to sleep at certain times? And then there's parental controls where you can turn on and off certain websites, or you can turn on and off certain devices, or make devices if you want your kid's phone to go to sleep at 9 o'clock and they can't access Instagram or TikTok. You can do all of that. So it gives you a little more peace of mind as to what's happening on your network. And I think that improves that user experience.
So I have to ask you because I think this is an area that in the industry, certainly consumers talk about it a lot. Do you have any guidance on what to name your network? Um, so I know I have in my, if I were to call up my local Wi-Fi signals, I would have one. Well, I think is that neighbor. And I've seen CIA and FBI and
Yeah.
all kinds of things like that. Do you ever have any fun with that kind of stuff and talking
Yeah,
with
we do. A lot of people do. And look, what you name your network has nothing to do with security. So it won't,
right.
it's not a more secure name or a less secure name.
Yeah.
But there's I've seen some funny ones. I've seen the FBI surveillance van, which is always a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think have fun with it. Make it something memorable that you won't forget.
Yeah.
And just have fun with it, and whatever appeals to you and your family, I think is the right thing to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned the relationship with Arrow on the hardware side. Do you have other partnerships, or is that a partnership, or just a decision to be a buyer from them?
No, Eero's a partner with us, so
Okay.
it's a recent partner, but it's been going very well, and we're very pleased with the relationship and very pleased with the product.
Do you have other partnerships or affiliate relationships in your
We
kind of
use some
ecosystem?
Nokia equipment on our slower packages, but our flagship is Eero.
Yeah, got it, got it. So the consumer, what's the customer profile? It's kind of everybody in a geography, right?
Yeah.
But do you break it by commercial versus residential, and
We
retail, or what's your kind of ICP mix look like?
Yeah, so we've got 2 products. We've got a consumer product or a household product, fiber to the home, and then we've got a small business, product that we just launched, this year, and that is for smaller businesses, 20, 30 people in an office, coffee shop, barber shop, those sorts of things, not high-rise buildings by any means, but, smaller businesses that are in the communities, and we have plans for them as well.
Gotcha. And for those small business packages, do you have any like affiliate programs? We had a guest on from a company that supports music for business use for on hold and on premise. Do you have anything like that that's like a package bundle option?
Not at this point, but those packages are still being shaped. It's a relatively new launch for us, but I imagine that very shortly we'll see some types of bundled packages for small businesses.
Gotcha. Gotcha. As a marketer,
Mm.
what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing? I mean, I'm just curious as you look at when you get up and look at your to-do list, what's on there that you're working away on, but is kind of the biggest part of and the more challenging part of the puzzle to solve for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest challenge as a marketer is consumer education.
Yeah,
When I started here at Ripple, I assumed falsely that the AT&Ts and the Googles and the big boys would do all the education as to what is fiber, right? Like what's fiber? Why is it better than, cable or broadband or whatever? Um, and there's still a large amount of the population that doesn't know what fiber is or what
yeah,
symmetrical speeds are or why it matters and what latency is. So we do a good amount of education in our branding and marketing. We write a lot of blogs about why this matters or why that matters or why this is important or how to choose. We do a lot of advertisements and search on that. We write white papers and we just try to continually educate that customer so they understand what they're purchasing. All internet is not created equal, but I think there's a lot of people that still don't realize that, and they think internet's internet. I just need it, and I need it to work.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. With the advent of LLMs, uh, are you seeing the audience or consumer looking for a different kind of package or a different is it affecting their usage in a interesting way? And then as a marketer, how are you and your team kind of bracing yourself for the reality of LMs often being the first place they learn or think about you, or second or third place, but the some where they enrich their information before they show up?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. Search is changing, right? Search, there used to be one answer. It was the big G letter, and that was the only answer for search. But that's not the case anymore. More and more people are going to chat or to Claude or wherever to search. And they're asking much more specific questions. They're not just saying, fiber internet near me. They're putting in bigger, more accurate prompts, and they're saying, "This is how I live my life. This is how many people live here. I stream this often," and those models are providing answers or results. So um, search has become very important to us, and not just Google search, but LLM search is something that we invest a lot of time in making sure that we show up and making sure that we're producing content that those models can find and serve up to people. So um, it is a new emerging technology that is going to become very important in search.
Yeah, for sure. Are you seeing on the product side, are you seeing people behave differently in the way that they're um, considering their packages given the advent of LLMs, or is it just they need stability? It's just the universal standard of I need it to work and need it to work without question.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't know the answer to that question. What I see is we launched some 5 and 8 gig products, and we see people taking those. Which 5 years ago, who would ever buy an 8 gig plan for anything, right? So people are consuming data differently, um, and we see higher packages selling,
Yeah,
but also we see people that are just price conscious as well. So finding the plan that's right for you is what's important, right? And people want just enough internet without getting too much internet. So, we've got uh, plans that range that, and we try and put people with packages that make sense for them, um, and not oversell internet or undersell internet because you won't be
Right.
happy either way.
Tell us a little bit about your community and engagement and events program, because I could see where that gives you a unique opportunity to be not only just known, but to communicate about some of the dimensions of product and the differentiation. For those that are leaning in in an interesting way, and people buy from brands they know and
Mhm.
feel a connection to and feel and see people around. So tell us a little bit how that shows up for you guys.
Yeah, being a part of the communities that we serve is very important to us. And we put a lot of effort into partnering with chambers of commerce, uh, local community events, um, local community partnerships. It's important that we relate to the people in those communities because we're helping to enhance those communities. Like that's our goal is to enhance people's lives, to make these communities better and more desirable through better technology. So we have local marketing teams that activate in every market. We have people that live in every market, and the goal there is to become a part of the communities. We do a lot of sponsorship of youth sports. We do a lot of sponsorships of community events and concert series and things like that. But then we also do a lot of like educational sponsorship. So we'll go into senior centers and do internet safety classes. We'll go to the community and teach people how to put together a resume if they're job searching. We'll do technology classes, job seeking classes, things like that that actually add benefit to the community. And it's one thing to sponsor the local chili fest, but it's another thing to go in there and actually give people education, information, and build relationships with them to support that community. So
Yeah.
we do a lot of things in libraries with technology, um, and just try to be. We try and give the community what they need. So if there's
Yep.
something they need, we try to be the one to provide it because you're right. Building those relationships builds trust, and people buy from people they trust. And we want to be seen as a trusted partner, not just someone who's coming in to sell internet, but someone who's actually coming in to enhance the infrastructure of that community. And we want to be there for a long time, right? We want to have that partnership for a long time.
Yeah. I'm curious, is there much seasonality to the sales cycle for the business?
There is a little bit of seasonality, more than I would have expected, but obviously, if we're selling in a door to door manner where we're knocking on doors, the warmer, longer days are more productive than the shorter, colder days. And then it also depends on the type of town. If it's a um, vacation town or a snowbird town where people are seasonally living there, then the
Mhm.
selling lines up with that seasonality. But it's typically weather and daylight that impact selling. Also, moving, right? People move
Yep.
in the summer before school starts and ends. So summer is typically more um, happening than the rest of the seasons.
Yep. That makes sense. Um, so, all kinds of stuff going on, I'm sure. Anything coming up in the in the tail end of summer here that you wanna make sure our listeners know about?
Well, yeah, I mentioned our small business plans, which we're working on improving right now. And then just continued expansion, right? I mean, we started with 2 states when I started here. We're over 10 states now. And we're going to continue to grow aggressively and build fiber. So, we want to be recognized as one of the premier fiber brands in the country. And we want to be able to deliver access to as many people as we can.
That's fabulous. It's amazing, 2 to 10, that's a massive amount of growth in 3 years.
Yeah.
So that congratulations on all the success to date. So speaking of success, you've had a really interesting career. I'm curious, anybody that on your journey that like was a mentor or an advocate, somebody that really influential in your journey that you want to give a shout out to or recognize?
Wow. Yeah. I worked with a guy named Jeff Garrett back in the agency day when we were doing experiential marketing. And he just had a nice way of making things very simple and finding the truth in the messaging. And I think that's important. That's something that I've carried with me my whole career is don't overdo it. Just say things in a simple, truthful way, and consumers will react. You know?
Yeah, we have a phrase that we use of "What's the simple human truth?" And, it's crazy how many times organizations walk away from the obvious that's staring them right in the face because it just seems too simple and too honest and direct.
Yeah,
And yet, like that, if you don't get that part across, then anything else you say won't matter.
yeah. So I'll tell you a funny story. When I was very young, out of design school,
Yeah.
I was working with a shoe company, and in the mall, they were in the mall, and they had what were called lease line signs, which is the sign at the front store, and they wanted signs for their shoe sales. And I was doing marker comps, and I thought I would be really smart and intelligent, and I was doing these very Dante's Inferno, Machiavelli. We're selling our soul ads with things and trying to be really creative. And I'm like, people will get it and they'll realize how smart this is and they're going to love it. And the owner or the gentleman I was working with was like, I don't like it. Go back. So I go back and I do another round and he'd say, I don't like it. I do another round. And this is like our fourth round. He's like, it just doesn't say shoe sale on it. And I got very frustrated. I was young and I ripped out a sheet of marker paper and I just wrote shoe sale. And I handed it to him. I go, that's what you want. All right. That's what you want. And he looked at me and he goes, print it. And I was like, bing, like light bulbs went off. Like,
Right.
just say it simply. Tell the
Yeah.
truth. I used to think if I did a really smart ad, people would realize how smart it was. And it's not what they want. They just want the
Yeah.
truth. We're selling shoes and they're on sale.
Right. Yeah.
But
As a longtime agency guy, you'll appreciate this and probably know this story. That so many agencies struggle with positioning themselves
yeah,
and always are looking for the unicorn, distinction of something that nobody else has ever come up with or whatever, which is nearly, I mean, with 100,000 agencies in the
yeah,
US, like, stop it. It's just not going to happen. Or if it is, nobody will understand it because they're coming to you for marketing.
right.
Like, just say you're a marketing agency. Okay, got it. Um, but I've always appreciated the McCann positioning, which is the truth well told.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's just that to me is the gold standard of lines.
mhm,
Whether they deliver that or not these days, who knows? I mean, I'm not sure that maybe we've wandered away from the truth a little bit. It's a
yeah.
portion of the truth, a fraction of the truth. But yeah, that's interesting. Well, Jim, as we round out things here, is there a little known fact or super interesting fact about you that you'd care to share with our listeners?
Sure. So Chris, I have slept in 49 out of 50 states, and I just have Alaska to check off my list. But my parents were teachers growing up, and we traveled the summers and camped a lot. And we visited all the states, and I've spent the night in 49 of them, most of them outside.
That's awesome. That is super cool. I think I've been to 48 and three of the U.S. territories. But I have worked in the travel and tourism space, so it was part of the job, if you will.
Sure,
And what a great part of the job because there's so many amazing places and spaces that if you don't get out there, it's a real mess. I mean, it's and the crazy thing is there's not a single state in the United States that isn't worth checking out.
I agree. I
You
agree.
know,
So many
it's
people are like, "Let's go to Europe." I'm like, "Have you been to the Badlands? Have you been to South
yeah,
Dakota? Have
yeah,
you been to
yeah.
Maine?"
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. You're hitting some really good ones. If it, there's literally, and I've lived in 10 states personally and overseas, and people always ask me, "What's your favorite?" Honestly, it's wherever I am
Yeah,
because there's greatness around you anywhere you might be, and I think it's a shame when people don't stop to recognize that. So at any rate, well, Jim, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate all you shared. We'll have to get you back in about a year or so and see if you're at 20 states or 25 states and maybe even a U.S. territory or two. That would be awesome to do. So I appreciate all you shared today.
Yeah, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Great talking to you.
All right. With that, we'll wrap up another episode of Beyond the Brief. As always, stay tuned. There's more to come. And